With the Thrones of Decay coming up, we have three rosters getting some updates: the Dwarves, the Empire, and Nurgle. And in theme with roster updates coming, I am going to predict slash hope for one thing for each faction, and I have some neat ideas. So looking first at the Chaos Dwarves, I've noticed something that CA seems to like to do recently, which is that these Iron Demons, you can get Hellbound, this ability that gives you magical attacks and physical resistance and all this stuff, right? Well, also they updated Bretonia, and they added a similar thing for their knights. You can get Blessing of the Lady. So I'm kind of wondering if they'll keep doing this in some fashion, and I would really like it for the dwarves. As I've been reading more dwarf books and dwarf lore, I've realized that rune axes are not a big deal. Like, a lot of basic longbeards or dwarf warriors or even miners have rune weapons that are passed down their family. Now, it's not super common, but I'd say about 1 in every 10 dwarfs has a rune weapon. So I would really like for us to be able to, like, if you click on a dwarf warrior, there should be that drop down that we just saw with, like, Bretonia, right? Like, if you click on this guy, there's a drop down, Blessing of the Lady. If we go to the dwarves, I'd really like to have drop downs for dwarf warriors and longbeards, to have a drop down that's like rune weapon. Maybe gives them magic damage and more melee attack, or gives armor piercing. Though I wonder with dwarf warriors with great weapons and longbeards with great weapons, we already have armor piercing options, so maybe just more melee attack and magic damage, because that would also help with the great weapon variants and things like that. It could be nice. Obviously, you might be like, that sounds OP. Obviously, you put a cost on it, right? So it's like, if it's melee attack and magic damage, maybe plus 150 and make a dwarf warrior 600 gold, which, that's pretty expensive for a dwarf warrior. If it adds armor piercing, then it need to be 200, 250. But again, I think with the great weapons, we're fine on that front. But it could be nice. Just have a little drop down, get some magic damage for the dwarves, a little easier, and just factor in rune weapons, which are like a really big part of their lore, as I'm learning, and we don't really have it right now. For the Empire, a different drop-down option. So actually, with the Warriors of Chaos is what I was basing these changes off of. If you pick a Marauder, there's all these drop-downs of Undivided, Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh and whatnot. I hope the Empire gets something a little similar, but it could be like, if you're hovering over Halberdiers, you know how the campaign unit, there's these Nordland Mariners, and they're really not that different than regular Halberdiers. I would hope that you'd be able to click Halberdier, and then you could, like, get the drop down of Nordland, and you could pay a little bit more money for the Nordland Halberdiers. I think that'd be cool. Like the handgunners, maybe get Nuln handgunners or Hochland sharpshooters. So they just get some stat buffs or maybe some more range or more accuracy or something like that. And you just pay a little bit more gold with a little drop down menu of what kind of elector count thing you'd want to do. Like great cannons, you could do Wissenland great cannons, and again, maybe they'd have some extra stats or something. I think that'd be more interesting, give the Empire a little bit more flavor in some of their units. Though Sterling's Revenge would still be an ROR, so it sucks to be you, Free Company Militia. But I hope that makes some sense, and we add a little bit more flavor to some of these units around here. Could be good. And finally, we have Nurgle. Now, Nurgle, I have the least sexy change out of the three I've proposed, but it is one that really needs to happen. For the love of God, change or just get rid of Rot Glorious Rot. It's terrible. It is a completely terrible tier 3 ability. It does, like, nothing. It barely ever spreads. It's just garbage. For a tier 3 ability, I would probably just want to change it to Heart of Winter mixed with Blight Boil. So, like, take the Blight Boil animation of just this thing popping up out of the ground, but then have the Heart of Winter effect around it. If you don't know what that is, that Kislev spell that has that, like, blue mist that does damage to things and slows them. That's pretty Nurgle. Just turn the mist green, increase the slow, and then that's it. So it's just kind of a blob punishment spell for free for your tier 3 ability with a good slow attached to it. That seems fine. But, like, Glorious Rot is fucking terrible. And I don't think, even if you buff it, just like change its numbers to the point where it's actually viable, I don't think it's a fun interactive thing. Just like, I clicked on your unit and did lots of damage. Where at least Tzeentch has that sky flurry of bolts that comes down, but you can try and dodge it unless it's paired with a net, so it actually takes like a combo to do good damage. Sword of Khorne is less dodgeable, but it does less damage than the Tzeentch one, so that's also kind of fair. Nurgles could be like, the slow is useful even if the damage isn't incredible, but if you just sit in the damage, then you'll take a lot. And then the tier 3 Slaanesh one is a good rampage, but I still don't think that should be a tier 3 army ability. Probably still be tier 2 at least. But anyway, yeah, I'll probably change that tier 3 ability. It's hot garbage.
Roar. Subscribe, yes, yes.